Running a brokerage is hard work, so whether you're focused on building your own sales pipeline, hiring the best agents, leveling up your team's production, or protecting culture you've built, you're in the right place. Real estate brings the challenges, and we share the solution. Welcome to the show dedicated to broker entrepreneurs. Welcome to the Brokerpreneur Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another. I've already stumbled, Matt. Welcome to another episode of the
I don't care what you do.
Of course we're not. Welcome to another episode of the Brokerpreneur Podcast. I'm Dr. Ben Spears, the Doctor of Flow. As usual, I am here with the big guy, Matt Vi. How's it going, Matt?
Doing absolutely fantastic, Dr. Ben
The
Spears.
Sasquatch of real estate.
That's right. That's
as
me.
I like to call him.
I've been doing my Wookiee voice, but it never comes out.
Yeah, it's never a Wookiee. Whatever it is. It's not,
never a Wookiee.
Yeah, you're not Chewy, okay?
And I know everyone can hear there's another laugh here already. So
Yeah.
apparently we have a guest.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're super excited about that. Let's go ahead and bring her on, guys. This is Lori Robertson. She is the owner of Speak Her Coach, which is basically a company that helps professional women excel in public speaking and coaches them to do amazing things in front of groups of people. So let's bring Lori on. Lori, how you doing?
Hey there. Great to be with you both today. You look so energetic and ready to roll. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm always this way. Matt's faking it for no, I'm joking.
I'm never live and energetic.
Great job.
Poking him in the ribs.
Everything that you hear me laughing normally on the podcast, that's all edited in by Ben. There's a laugh track. He puts that in there. Any personality Ben puts in for me, I appreciate him doing that.
Yeah, any smile is a filter. Tell us a little bit about Speak Her Coach, and then I want to get some background on you. But let's start by basically letting everybody know exactly what it is that you do real quick.
Yeah. Speak Her Coach really was born out of a desire to help more professional women recognize the magic they have inside them and get some clarity around their message, which helps develop confidence to say yes to opportunities. Most of the women I work with, they have achieved great things in their career, and we want to learn from them. We ask them to come give keynotes or speak on panels or be interviewed. But you and I both know dozens of sharp, talented women who say no thank you to those kinds of opportunities because they think, I'm not ready yet. I'm not an expert. What if I mess it up? There's somebody better. And we all lose when these brilliant women don't share their insight, but we have the opportunity to win when more women have the confidence to step up and share what they've learned along the way with the rest of us who want to learn from them. So that's really what I'm focused on.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And guys, before we dive deep into this, wherever you're listening to this, make sure you hit that follow or that subscribe button. Go to speakhercoach.com and just check out some stuff that she's got going on, as well as brokerpreneurpodcast.com. See some of the cool things that we have going on. So here's how I imagine all of this happening, Lori. I imagine you being 2 years old and you're playing with some toy that's whatever a 2-year-old would play with, a ball. It's got a lot of little soft spikes coming off of it for texture. And then you're like, you know what I think when I grow up, I want to empower women to be amazing speakers and share their brilliance and their magic. And then that's just how it worked. Is that it? Did I get that pretty close, or am I off just a little bit?
It's very close.
I knew it.
The ball is a little slightly different from as you described.
Gotcha.
It is funny that as you were talking about the 2-year-old, it did make me think that my mom says that I started speaking late, whatever that means, but I started right in with full sentences. So apparently I was just saving it up and then just went straight in. And I also remember probably every report card every year getting a check in the box that says talks too much, like talks during class. And I've always had a lot of words, but professionally, I really grew up in the world of live events and speakers. My most notable professional experience is that I spent 10 years producing a faith-based women's tour called Women of Faith. Mm-hmm. We toured NBA and NHL arenas, 28 or 30 of them a year. And at our peak, our average attendance was 14,000. And I remember walking in to my first Women of Faith event in the American Airlines Center. I wasn't even hired yet. I was just visiting and seeing women to the top row of the third tier. And they were laughing together. They were singing together. They were just enjoying together in a way that encouraged their spirits.
Awesome.
And I thought to myself, I want to spend the rest of my life producing experiences like this for as many people as I can. And I've always been super focused on the person in the seat, and you need to be. But a few years ago, my view broadened a bit, and I began to think more about the person on the platform. And the 360-degree magic that's created when someone like you or me walks in front of a group of people, 10 people or 10,000 people, and share out of the wisdom, the lessons you've learned and earned, filtered through only your stories, your personality, your perspective. And it's a gift to everyone in the room, but it's a gift to you too, to be able to step into your purpose that way. And that's really how Speak Her Coach was born, a desire to help more women step into their purpose in that way.
Yeah, that's so killer. In real estate, there's a lot of the brokers and a lot of the owners are, of course, women, right? And a lot of people would argue that real estate is dominated by women on the sales and on the brokerage ownership side. So I love that you're helping people get more comfortable doing that, because we know a lot of women, both that we've met and clients and everything, that have voiced some kind of opinion. A little bit of it is about video, right? They're not excited about being on video because of the whole public speaking thing, right? So we run into that a little bit. But we also know people that have had women that have had the opportunity to be able to speak in front of groups. And we know there's a hesitation to it because we talk about it. They're like, I was asked to do this, or I had the chance to do that, or I've been the vice president of this for the past couple of years, and I don't know if I'm going to do it again next year, knowing that the next logical step is then typically to step into the presidency on something like that. And some of it is their schedule. But I think some of it, like you're saying right now, is that they're a little bit concerned, they're a little bit worried. Maybe they don't feel like they're really as prepared to step into that role as they could be. And so that's not helping them, and that's not helping that group by them not stepping forward into that role. So what's something, listening to the audience member listening, maybe that resonated a little bit with them. What's one of the first things that they would need to do to get themselves mentally prepared so that they're not worried about taking that first step into that next role? Because what we're talking about is leadership, right? Taking that next step, leading with themselves first. What's one of the first things that you think that they could do in that situation to feel more comfortable stepping into one of those roles that we're talking about?
For whatever reason, and I'm not qualified to speak to the psychology of it, but we women have a much stronger risk aversion than most men, just making general statements that aren't applicable to everyone. But for some reason, we really fear the cost if it doesn't go perfectly. And I think one of the first things you have to do, first of all, is just realize that we all feel that way to one degree or another, men and women alike. We all doubt ourselves. We all have times where we don't feel as qualified as we would like to be. And one of the challenges is we don't talk about that very often. And so then we individually assume we're the only ones who feel that way. But the fact is, everyone feels that way. And the other side of it too is when you really think about what is the worst that could happen. And typically the worst is never really the worst. When you talk about public speaking, there are a few things we all fear. You fear saying the wrong thing. You fear forgetting what you were going to say. You fear falling. And my second time, so in my time at Women of Faith, about halfway through, I was asked to start emceeing the events. And so I went from no public speaking experience to walking onto this enormous stage and emceeing the events. The first weekend, there were 6,000 in the room. The second weekend in St. Louis, there were 16,000 in the room. And my first trip up onto the stage on Friday night, I fell. I fell like all the way to my hands and knees. And I banged the microphone on the stage. So if you missed the acrobatics, you did not miss the sound. And two things I really learned from that. One was I watched that video over and over later because you can bet it made the year-end highlights reel.
Oh, yeah.
And I fell and I popped back up like I fell for a living. And I made some quick joke about that's how we start things with a bang. And I just went on with it. And on the inside, I wanted to die. I wanted the stage to come apart, swallow me whole, and go on without me. But on the outside, like it was fine. And people don't know how nervous you are if you don't tell them. And I'm here to tell you, those things we think are the worst that can happen, it's totally survivable. You can fall in front of 16,000 people, get up and go on with it. I'm here to tell you, personal experience.
So I'm gonna venture a guess at why. So I think a man, kind of making a little bit of a differentiation, like you talked about with risk aversion, basically. I think if a man would have fallen, I think that their perspective might have been a little bit differently, in a way that would not have been as comforting to the audience. I think that a lot of people, especially speakers, look at it from a standpoint of they truly want to help the audience. And so when that happened to you, immediately, my guess would be one of your first concerns was the audience, not whether you were hurt, not whether, I'm sure you were embarrassed, like you said, got past it. But the number one thing was, okay, I came up here to do something very specific for the audience. I want to make sure that happens the way that it's supposed to. Risk aversion men, I think, would have started dealing more with that a little bit differently. And I think you probably looked at it from a very nurture standpoint, and especially having for a few years, having already dealt with that demographic and that audience, you probably got up and were more concerned about them and their interaction with what was going on with the show than anything else, if I had to guess.
Yes, absolutely. I wanted them to know I was fine, because I didn't want to be their concern for me. I didn't want that to be their distraction that kept them from what we had for them. And I'm telling you, you can hear it when 16,000 women go,
you know it.
I bet.
But yes, I wanted them to know it was fine. And I wanted them to have a little chuckle with me, and then we'll set it aside and we'll go on from here. So you're absolutely right that I did not want that to be a focal point.
Yeah, see, the easy thing for me is I could easily say I'd probably fall like my first 12 times going out. But I could always get to the microphone and get up and be like, Matt, will you take over? Then Matt would just come over and crush it and do whatever it is that I was trying to do anyway. So that's the luxury that I have, not being a solo artist.
Yeah, I can see that.
So there's a second point to this that I want to make sure that I tie together here, because of course I love this being a benefit for our brokers. I think a lot of brokers are concerned that something like tripping would happen. Okay. But immediately your first response was to nurture and take care of. I think a lot of brokers, that's how they look at their agents. I think they want to do the same exact thing, whether it's on a stage or whether something didn't go right with a contract, or they're trying to help them get more business or whatever it is. Those brokers really want the agents to be able to succeed and get the most from it. So they're used to doing this already. And so when they're saying that they don't want to speak when given the chance, or they don't want to be on a panel when they're given the chance, or anything along that line, I don't think they realize they're already doing it. I don't think they realize they're already built for this. I don't think they realize they're already on a day-to-day basis dealing with the situations and the scenarios that would allow them to succeed. They're already practicing that, right? Is that on track, or?
It's 100% on track, because what they're doing already is the same thing public speaking is at its core. It's leadership and it's service. And they are already doing that with their teams. And most of the realtors and brokers I know in my personal network aren't just involved in their company. They're involved in the community. They're involved in the leadership academy for realtors across their region or across the state. They are leading and serving in numerous ways on a daily basis. They're just not framing it the same way in their minds, but truly speaking in front of whatever size group, as you said a minute ago, it's leadership, it's service.
Yeah, I love that. And so they're cut out for it. So there should be no excuses now. So Lori and Ben and I expect everyone listening to get out there and get engaged and help other people.
Yep, they already are.
That's
just
right.
Like you said.
That's absolutely correct. So tell us a little bit more. So so we talked about, and I'm going to bring it up again for the 15th time in case anybody's tuning in late, about you tripping, going up on that one of the first times. So we talked about that being a struggle. What was one of the other big moments on the stage that you had that you just realized that the audience had just connected with what you were saying, and that they really got something, that there was this high level of takeaway from that? Was there a moment up there that you were like, man, I want other people to experience this exact same thing?
Absolutely. I had the opportunity last fall to deliver a keynote at the Missouri State Board of Realtors Fall Conference. And I talked about leading with story, how story is your superpower or influence and impact that you want to have as a leader. And the framework of that talk is why stories are powerful, what makes a story powerful, and the power of using your personal story. And one of the greatest things, I don't think it was my idea, so I'm not taking credit for it, but I had the opportunity to reach out to half a dozen realtors from around the state and hear a little bit about their personal stories, what brought them to real estate and their why in what they do and how they help homeowners and families and communities. And as I closed the talk with this board of realtors in the room, I was able to share just quick versions of the stories of a handful of realtors there that realtors they know, but maybe they didn't know how they came to real estate or what drove them there. And it always makes me think of, in How the Grinch Stole Christmas, where his heart grows 2 sizes that day. I think that's what happens when our connection, when we hear someone else's story and we find something there that's relatable to us and that draws us to that person. And everyone was looking around the room. Everyone was pinpointing the people I was talking about. And you could tell like they were learning things about people they'd known for years that they had not heard before. And it absolutely proved the power of story. It was a fabulous moment.
Yeah, I love that. That's like pulling at our heartstrings, right? Matt doesn't have a heart, so his can't grow, but mine grows. It's 4 times for Matt. And I'm going to ask you a question, Matt, right? Being our resident real estate and recruiting expert. And then I want to hear Lori's kind of expansion upon this. So many times brokers who are trying to connect with agents, I'll use like finger quotes when I say connect, because a lot of times it's not really connecting. I'm trying to connect with agents in their marketplace to say, hey, come and learn more about my brokerage. They're doing it in a way of, here's my list of tools that I offer, and here's my commission split, and here's that, here's this, and here's that. Whereas if you interview most agents, like that's not really what they're looking for. No. They can get that anywhere
on a website.
And how important is it for a broker? And just talk about it a little, because I want to hear Lori's voice more than yours. I hear yours enough all day.
Rings in his ears.
Yeah, talk about it. I wake up in sweats to Matt's voice, and I'm like,
"Podcast done? Are we
my wife, are you okay?" And she's mad again. My Matt sweats. And so, talk to us a little bit about the importance of a broker actually sharing their story.
Yep.
And then give the rest to Lori.
Hey, Dr. Ben here. I hope you're enjoying this episode. If sometimes you feel overloaded or alone when it comes to building your brokerage, I want you to know that we are here for you. There's so much support available to agents, but hardly any dedicated to brokers. I want to personally invite you to schedule a complimentary strategy call where Matt will help you build a 3-step profitability plan that will immediately produce results. This is not a sales pitch. There's no obligation. Simply click the link in the description below. Now let's get back to the show.
Speaking of stories, so somebody was on a mastermind not long ago, and on one of our masterminds, and it was a broker, and they met with an agent that they really liked, and they were basically getting ready to sit down and have a meeting with the agent. And they started to explain, because we were talking to them, okay, what's going to happen? How's that going to go? Tell me a little bit about your process. And they started to explain their tools and systems. And I said, okay, what I want you to do is I want you to tell me now what isn't on my About Me page, and what isn't on my website, and what isn't something that they can find in another brokerage that will help them understand what they're truly signing up for. And it took this person a minute. And the reason why it took a minute is because for a very long time, that's exactly how they had spoken to people when it came time to interview with somebody that was potentially coming onto their company. And so they were telling them all things, for lack of a better way of putting it, that the agent could figure out themselves. They could go to a website and figure it out themselves. They didn't have to meet the person to hear what it was really about, because the information was already out there, which means that didn't set them apart from anybody else. And so we talked for about 5 minutes specifically about them. and about why they did what they did, and about some success stories and everything. At the end of that, because there was other brokers on the call. At the end of that, I asked the other brokers, I said, was that compelling? Would you want to be part of that? Would you want to be part of that brokerage? It had nothing to do with the CRM they offer. It had nothing to do with branding and commission splits and how much marketing they did together and their training and leads and all that. Had nothing to do with that. It had to do with them being a person and what it was that they did that truly helped them feel success in their life with what they were doing with real estate. We talked about that. All the other brokers, half of them were probably in tears, to be completely honest, but they were all excited about that opportunity to be able to do that. It had nothing to do with tools and systems, because if they come for the stuff, they'll leave for the stuff, right? And so we wanted them to be there for the person, because that's not what was duplicatable. Lori, but I know being able to tell your story is a big part of what you said just a second ago. How do you help someone understand that it really is their story that sets them apart, not their stuff?
Sure. Yeah. Going back to that idea that anyone is held back by the thought that I'm not an expert. There are other people who know more than me. If we went to Amazon right now and looked for information on communication, which is my jam, how many books would there be? How many millions of titles would there be? The only thing that differentiates me from everyone else is my story, which has created my experience, my perspective. I say, and I don't know that this is original, I probably heard it from someone else, but I like to say your story is your authority.
Love it.
You're not getting up to say, I am the worldwide expert on this thing and I know all there is to know and you only want to learn from me. No, you're saying, here's what I experienced and here's what I learned that will help you along the way. The other thing too, Matt, as you're talking about a broker talking to agents in their network and finding what sets them apart, no one cares what you know until they know why you care or they know how much you care. And talking about those realtors that I got to interview prior to that keynote I delivered, one of the women who owns a brokerage she came from a horrible growing up environment, left home early to escape that, and went into another very bad environment and found herself a single mom at 16 or 18 years old. She just had every single statistic against her and making success impossible. But she found a way and had help from good people. She got a job at the front desk at a real estate office.
Wow.
Then learned and did everything she needed to do to become an agent, then became a broker and bought the brokerage.
Awesome.
I'd love to interview that lady for sure.
Yes, this young girl who had no hope for success, statistically, no hope for success. And can you imagine being an agent and hearing her story
Absolutely.
and not being drawn? Think about what that means about her as
Absolutely.
a person and her character and her heart. And another who grew up with a single mom who did the best she could, but really struggled to make ends meet. And they were constantly losing their place they were living and having to find someone else because their mom couldn't make the rent. And now her passion is helping families find forever homes because she grew up with a gap in that area.
Yeah.
And so every realtor and every broker we know has a story of why they do what they do, why it matters to them, and what value it provides to the people they help. It's just a matter of unearthing that story and putting it together in a way that speaks to the heart of the person you're talking to.
Which is just so much more important than all of that other stuff, than all of the other tools, all the systems, all the everything. We talk about it all the time, being authentic and sharing who you authentically are with other people. If someone comes to your brokerage because that's who you are, then the other things that happen day to day in real estate don't matter as much because they came to that brokerage because of you, because of who you are.
Right.
And that can't be duplicated. That can't be stolen from you.
Right.
That can't be, somebody else can convince somebody that they want to be somewhere else because of it. But we see a lot of people that are just not authentic in real estate, right? There's a lot of that going around. And if you can figure out who you really are, don't be afraid to be on that stage and talk to people about who that is, because the people that you do attract are going to be there. And they're going to go find other people just like you. And they're going to be excited to be part of what you are, because they know that who you are is exactly who they want to be around, because that's what you promoted to them. That's what you got in front of them on a regular basis. Yeah, Lori, that's so killer.
Yeah, you're not going to want to recruit the people who were attracted to the fake version of you.
No.
That's just going to be extremely stressful.
And I think as a culture, our BS meter just gets stronger and stronger all the time. Every time your phone rings, your first assumption is like it's some spam trying to sell you something.
Ooh.
And without that personal connection, we have less and less to stand on. And I also would just encourage, don't be afraid to be vulnerable in telling the story of where it went wrong. Nobody cares what happens when you got it all right. Nobody cares. We want to know what happens when it all went wrong, when it all fell apart. What did you do? What did you learn that can help me with the challenge I'm facing? And what did you learn that's made you the person you are today? That's what we want to know.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the ultimate connector, right? So if you're meeting anyone for the first time, the last thing you want is a bullet list of their accomplishments or whatever. Yeah, you just essentially, even if you're not trying to like do some kind of business with, right? It's almost like you should look at every connection as you're not trying to do business with these people, right? We always preach value first, of course. That's the way we feel like business should be. But even as just being human to human, right? Somebody's going to find out that my son likes to play golf, right? Someone's going to find out that Matt's kids like to play soccer. And that's so much more important than
have a database.
How big are your biceps? How big are your biceps? That's kind of how it feels.
Right. Yes. And you wouldn't date like that. You wouldn't sit down with somebody and say, okay, listen here, I've got the cheat sheet. Here's all the stuff that I offer. I'm going to put this all on the page. If you wouldn't do that, and you're going into a relationship, both things are going into a relationship. Yeah. So I love that. So we could talk about this all day, but we want to be super respectful of your time, Lori.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I could talk about, especially the power of story. It just cannot be overstated that it's the way we've learned from each other. It's the way we've connected with each other since before written language. Absolutely. And it still works as well today as it did then. Just not enough people use it to connect and teach and inspire, but it's there for the taking.
Yes, it is. We took a few notes here, and I'm going to ask you here in a second, how does everyone get connected with you? You said your story is your authority.
I'm going to steal the heck out of it. Even if it wasn't yours, I'm going to steal it.
I may have stolen it from someone else. I'm not sure.
I'm going to continue the larceny then.
That's where I'm getting to.
Okay.
Because none of us know. Let's just say I coined it.
Okay.
Back in 1982.
Right, I got you.
It was like my first words.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to take credit for that here on episode 268 of the Brokerpreneur podcast. Gosh, I just love it. I want to make sure that we have you on.
Absolutely.
I love guests that come on that we can all kind of laugh. We can have a good time and we just have a coffee shop style conversation. So we'd love to have you on again. I want to make sure that all of our listeners can get in touch with you, learn more about you. Just reach out and connect to her, guys, if she gives you a way to connect. And let's let them know how to do that.
Yeah, so you can reach me via my website at speakhercoach.com, as you said. And on social, I'm most active on LinkedIn. So we can provide a link to my profile there as well.
Absolutely, guys. Wherever you're listening to this, or if you're watching it, those links are in the description below. Make sure that you click on those before you do anything else and connect with her, because I promise you will not regret it. Matt, anything else before I put a little bow on this?
No, I love it. We enjoyed having you as a guest. We'll have to have you back, maybe get you into a couple of the masterminds. We also speak a lot with some agents. We'd love to get you connected with them as well.
Awesome. I appreciate it. And truly on behalf of the people you serve, because I do have some friends who are brokers and who are agents and lots of friends in the world of real estate. And you really do walk what you just said, value first. And so on behalf of all of us, thank you for bringing your heart and your talent and your personality to a resource like this. It's awesome to see.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. Let me get my notes out so I can put a bow on this and tie it up. Guys, if you're listening to this, I got it written on my arm. Guys, if you're listening to this on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, any of those platforms, make sure you hit that follow button. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that red subscribe button, that bell right beside of it. You get notified every time we drop a new episode. There's absolutely no better time than the present after you go to speakhercoach.com. Then to go to brokerpreneurpodcast.com. Check out all the cool things that we have. We always have some sort of free guide or free course or a free event coming up that you're more than welcome to take part in. Always remember that every single Friday, we should have Lori come to one of these too.
Right.
Every single Friday at 12 o'clock, we have what's known as our Brokerpreneur Not So Secret Society. And it is open for all brokers across the country or across the world. We speak English, and that's kind of it. Mine's like a country style.
Right.
Kind of like a country style steak or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Country fried English. But you're more than welcome to come. We talk about all things growing brokerages, and we talk about scaling through recruiting, retention, agent productivity, you name it. You bring the questions, Matt will bring the answers. So Matt,
Yep.
we bring on amazing guests who are almost as amazing as Lori every single time for one reason and one reason alone. And tell them why that is.
We just want to be part of your win.